Okay, so this is a bit of a journey. This all started out with me being really annoyed how long it took Steam to launch, and obviously, Omarchy is all keyboard based. It's all really quick, all this kind of stuff. And then with the evolution of like the Steam boxes and Steam, I thought it was sort of all missing a trick, because I mentioned this in other videos. Steam on Linux is really supposed to be played in GameScope. It's not supposed to be launched from a desktop. That's Windows world, but obviously Steam OS is all about the Linux desktop underneath, or the Linux underneath, and then the Steam OS with Valve's compositor, GameScope, over the top. So I set about writing a quick keyboard binding, and it just sort of blew up from there into the point where I created a games launcher system, which is now called WOPR, which is a sort of joke about the computer in war games, basically. And because obviously Omarchy is sort of all hackerish and everything like that, and the War Games was, I think, one of the first hacker type movies, wasn't it? And it sort of blew up from that. So I ended up building it so it works for NVIDIA, Intel, and AMD. So I've done all the testing on NVIDIA. I've done all the testing on Intel. I'm just going to install it onto an AMD card, a 9060 XT. And once that's complete, and if it works fine, I will put it on Git. Now, that's the first. I didn't know, I know what Git is, but I've never done anything with Git before, so bear with me. So I've done a Git account, I put it on Git, and then I think you can like ask requests and stuff like that about how to change it. Someone's already asked, could you do this with like native resolution of a laptop or big screens? I don't know. I mean, absolutely. I mean, I've got to get this one out the door, and then we can look at tweaks. But it's specifically designed for Omarchy. Omarchy is brilliant, and it sort of fits in with the world of Omarchy. But what happens is Omarchy gives you a base Steam installation, and it works for NVIDIA, and then you start tweaking and wine tricks and everything like that. You get very little on AMD. Lots of things don't work on that one. And Intel Arc, forget about it until you put this package on, and then basically the script will identify the card or the system, pull down the relevant extras you need, and you should be able to jump into gaming. I mean, there's a few tweaks you're going to have to do with screensaver. You get a few tweaks you're going to have to do with which Proton version, if you use Proton GE, if you use the Steam Proton, things like that. But most of it works. And what I'll do is I'll do the installation now on the AMD machine. And then I'll reboot, just double check it works. And then what we'll do, we'll jump into some benchmarks. So you can see what each of those different cards and those games playing on Omarchy. And I'll probably talk over some of it with some of the problems I encountered with certain games. Most of them work fine. There's a few ones that are a bit wobbly, and that's on the Intel side of the world. But there you go. So with that said, let's dive in. Okay, here we are. This is the black theme. I've not actually looked at this one before. It's quite cool. So what we're going to do, I'm going to just install the Games Launcher so you can see. I think you've seen this in my other videos. I think my 3.2 update video, you can see in there. And then we'll just install it. I've got to reboot, obviously, to get it activated. We'll come back quickly, and then we'll go into the game's benchmarks and tests so you can, can talk about that. Okay, so I need a console. So I've got console installed. I know I should be using Ghosty and Kitty or I'm old school. Sorry about that. I need a file finder, and hopefully, I don't know how Git works. You can put it down, right? I don't know. I make videos for a living. Yeah, I'm a filmmaker and all that. I don't do coding. Omarchy is brilliant. It's sort of given me all the toys to go back to something. I started coding. Here you go. I wrote a snake game for a 380Z research machine. And I mean, if anybody can Google what a 380Z research machine is, it's a long time ago. But then I did machine code, assembler, stuff like that. Then went into the Navy, did computers in the Navy as well. But no coding on Navy stuff. I mean, done a lot of time with computers. And then I left. And really, it's sort of like programming's an oddity. It's sort of like I've never really got into it. I never really got it. But I've always ended up writing stuff. When I was in post-production, you end up writing scripts for Unix to do stuff for you on a system to make a workflow. So whenever I come across a problem, I end up writing a program for it. Now, AI is great because it can help you. It can be your wingman. I'll do a whole video on AI and how it can help you code. I mean, it can help you code, but it can't do it for you type thing. I know there's too much of that at the moment. You need the initial idea. You need to write the shell of it, and then basically, you know, go from there. And this is what this emanated from. This was me like doing some bash script, and I thought, oh, actually, if I get Claude involved, that can give me that can, and it just blew up. So anyway, so I'll get it installed and you can see it. So first off, over here, we need to do chmod. And then make it, oh, I've spelled that wrong, chmod plus x space. Have you done it right this time? Okay, and then I'm going to put it over the other side because I'm down the corner, aren't I? So let's just drop this in and it should run. Password. System update, checks that. Okay, now I'll pull down all the dependencies. There's a lot of yes on this one that it needs for an AMD card. I've done it on the Intel Arc, I've done it on NVIDIA. So let's just make it pull down all the stuff that it needs for now it's putting down some Intel stuff on this because this machine has an Intel APU, iGPU in it. So it's putting that down as well. Okay, now on this version, I did have a version of this that installed the catchy kernel. On the final production version, yes. On the final production version, I've removed the catchy kernel stuff. I don't think it's necessary. I think everybody keeps running around saying the catchy kernel is amazing. I think for the amount of additional problems with coding and the potential issues for people, it doesn't simplify, makes it more complicated. So I just removed it. It's pointless. And if you want to use catchy and play games, do that. This is designed to be super easy for people to use, you know, and not overcomplicate the situation. So it installs all the dependencies for you. I mean, it's great having that. There's an older version of this script up there if you wanted to do it. There's an early version with the Zenti interface I did. I just switched over to do it in a TUI. But there's an early version that will put a catchy kernel on there for you. I don't think, and everybody goes, if you try this on catchy, I don't think it's really worth it. It gives you probably 3 or 4 more frames per second. It's a low latency sort of, what is it, borrowed something or other resource, something or other. I tried it with DaVinci Resolve because apparently it's great for creative tasks. I couldn't see any difference. So I've just taken it out of this, made it simple, just goes through, do it all, and then we'll install. And then basically, you know, you can play games. It's the idea of it. This is coming down, my internet's playing up a little bit. This is on 3.2. I'm actually 3.2. I'm going to offer this up if they want to include it or do what they want with it. They may not. I mean, there's a lot in this. It may be like slightly off charge, but it lets you play games on Omarchy. I mean, pretty, you know, from the get-go, which is great. Because, I mean, a lot of people coming to Omarchy will probably not have a very in-depth knowledge of anything, but it's a beautiful operating system. And you want to, I'd like to encourage people to use it because it's sort of like, you know, it's a great big step forward for Linux, really. Anyway, here we go. Proton GE. You see, once you've got it installed, you can Google what you do with it. You know, it's got wine tricks, everything's on there. You can, once you've installed it in one go, and basically this installs Steam for you as well, so you do not need to do the Steam installation. You just do this when you get on your machine. Ignore putting Steam on there, just do this and you're set. Okay, now you need to add yourself as a video user. Yeah. Password, this allows you just to be seamless. Grant access to capsys. Yeah. And then we're done. So that's it, all installed. So what I've got to do now, come back to me over here. So what I've got to do now, I've got to reboot, and then I'll give you a quick bit of preamble, and then we'll dive into doing the benchmarks of each system. So I'll be back in a second. Okay, so it took a while to get these done. So basically what I've done, I've gone through Black Myth Wukong, I've done Cyberpunk 2077 and Tomb Raider, and then there's a bit of a run around on Borderlands 4. And so what I did was I set the cards all at the same level with their equivalent scaling for their internal scaling. So I've left that sort of to auto for them. But the rules of Fight Club are basically no frame gen. So there's no frame gen on any of these. It's completely, and no ray tracing, because obviously that makes it super unfair. We know the NVIDIA can do ray tracing really well. AMD's a bit whatever. The Intel's not fantastic at it, really. But I mean, so I've sort of leveled it off, and you can still see their comparative speeds. And when I finish this, I'll come back, and then we'll just finish off. Anyway, so let's just sort of jump into this bit of it. I'll just switch over to the play source, playback, and get it going. All right, so this is on top right. You can see this on the AMD card, 9060 XT, and this is through the games launcher in Omarchy, running in GameScope. And you can see you've got the Mango HUD. You can't see the cursor. The Mango HUD over the top there. And this is what I've done is I've done like a one run through. I'm not going to bore you to death by taking you through each benchmark each time. We'll do one run through on one machine and then basically show the scores at the end. Now, the thing with this is I recorded it on OBS on the AMD, and it's done not fantastic quality recording of the video. So that doesn't really reflect how good the quality of the video is, to tell you the truth, of what you're looking at. But I mean, it's an interesting thing. Black Myth is like a really tough, the further up you go. It's not actually hard to make a big GPU weep with this. I mean, the settings on this aren't on high. There's no ray tracing, and global illumination and the bottom two are off. So it's medium settings, I believe, on all of it. But yeah, I mean, it's a good one it's just a test. It's a benchmark you can download from the Steam store, and it runs on Linux. So it's quite good to test your cards. And as you'll see, it's not very even. Well, it's not super even, and it's quite unexpected result. You'd always expect. I mean, it's weird. AMD's always been like Linux, really their drivers are opened up. You could use them. And then NVIDIA has sort of come along, and they've got better. You can get it, I always used to have huge problems with NVIDIA drivers on things. It's much, much better now. But it's sort of not so balanced. It's obviously that some situations the NVIDIA cards are better. Some situations the AMD cards are better. There's no real situations the Intel card's better, because it's 12 gig RAM. It's not. Driver development just is nowhere near as old as AMD and NVIDIA. But, it's an interesting sort of place. But the cost, as I said, it's like 400 quid for the 5060 Ti, 300 quid for the AMD, and £200 for the B580. So we get end of this one. What's the scores on the doors? And then it'll flick to the next, over to the next card. Here we go. So what have we got? So the score is at 137 frames. So you can see there's some dips on the frame graph there, bit wobbly. And there is medium, 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 strong motion blur, ray tracing off, FSR, frame gen off, all medium. There you go. And yeah, low 15, minimum 19 frames per second. And then it should flip. This is the B580, 62. Not great. Quite a big difference there in results. Exactly the same settings. VRAM 14. And then the third one, and this is a bit of a, I wasn't going to rip my work machine to pieces, this one. So this is done on the Ryzen. So it's a slightly different chip. It's not too much. 160 frames per second. So if I remember correctly there, the AMD beat it. Is that right? But so, yeah, so those two sort of similar. Actually, let me just rewind that. Am I losing the plot here? 62. Yeah, AMD beat it. Anyway, let's get back to Tomb Raider. I thought I was losing my mind there. Yeah, so anyway, Tomb Raider. So Tomb Raider, again on the AMD run through. Now at the top here, you see you've got the Mango HUD frame rate, and then you've got another frame rate underneath there. But it's really weird. The results at the end of this are very, very odd. This is always a good test to do, because it hammers the GPU as well as it hammers the CPU. And what you do in this, you just max it completely. So you get, it uses everything it can. But yeah, I mean, it's an old enough game now, but it does work on all the cards and all the platforms, and it's easy to adjust it so that it's similar on each, because it's got inbuilt, anti-aliasing, that you can just switch to that. You don't need to necessarily use dedicated things to do it. So it's like 60, 70 frames, but that's not what it ends on. I don't want to give it away here, but it's interesting what happens. Yeah, no, I mean, recording quality is not fantastic here. I used hybrid MP4. It's the first time I've ever used it on OBS. And normally I just do it AV1 and just like do it as MP4, and it's normally better quality. Maybe I missed a setting, but anyway, I mean, you can see what's going on here, can't you? You don't need me to talk you through that. So yeah, just let it run through. But it's interesting. You know, there aren't that many games. If a games developer really wants to make a game work, like have a lot of traction, just put a benchmark in it, because all us idiots are going to sit here, we're going to buy it, we're going to bench it all the time, like Doom, like this, like Cyberpunk. If it's got a benchmark in it, then we're going to use it, aren't we? So to show off, you know, to compare hardware, but you know, you've got to be a smart games developer to go, well, we better put a benchmark in that. I don't think when Doom Dark Ages released, it had a benchmark. And to give the game away, that's not in here because that just does not. Well, it does work on an Intel GPU, but it just gives you this like world of dots. Works great on AMD, great on NVIDIA, but that was a really big failure. Couldn't get that to work properly. It runs, the game runs, but it's just horrendous on the Intel. So I thought it wasn't fair to do that. But that's one you want to look out for. So it's the last buy. Now, I am not, if anybody has watched my previous videos, there's every time I run this benchmark, I've seen this benchmark thousands of times. And I'm sure that IDOS are messing with me because they change things in this end part. There's bits that vary every time you run it. And I watched it and there's like a child stood in front of this, you see it in a minute. And I couldn't work out, he's not in the previous benchmark. And it's like, what's going on? And then they changed the clothing at the end, I'm sure of it. So it's not the same benchmark. They must have some kind of random generation bit in here. And they're like people are wearing different clothes. And it just messes with my head because it's like, I'm sure that wasn't in there. Anyway, look, come around this corner. Right, that's normally there. Now, you can't see a child there. There's a kid. Now, I've run this so many times. Is he there? Yes, he is. And there he is. But he's not always the same each time. I don't know if that's some Easter egg or something every time you run it. And also these two people fighting at the back, not fighting, they're arguing, they change around. I'm losing my mind. These two on the left hand side, they change what they're wearing. Anyway, I can't do this. It blows my mind that. It's like every time I think I'm losing the plot. I mean, I'm old enough to lose the plot, but that worries me. Anyway, so let's just jump through to the ending. So on the AMD, it's 59 frames a second. And the frame graph, there you go, rendered. But then we jump onto the, I can't remember what I did next. Intel? Is it Intel next or NVIDIA? Right, 59 frames. Really similar. Now, either that's a bug with GameScope locking it into 60 frames a second because you saw it go over, you know, or, you know, or it's, I don't know. But the GPU, all the figures different, but all of them now are 59. Now, there's one tweak on here I screwed up. Texture filtering is only on 8 times on the NVIDIA. It doesn't make any difference. It's like 59 frames per second, but they're all the same. But their frame graphs, if you look at the frame graphs, they look very different. So Cyberpunk, and we'll go through on the 5080 start off with. I'm just going to jump in here and show you the settings. So where are we? We are going to graphics. So I've got the XESS on. Ray tracing's off, but it's on ultra. So it's ultra, no ray tracing and no frame gen. Let's give it a go. Yep. And this is all remember, all of these are 1440p. Yep, I want to run that. Yeah, it's a nightmare. I mean, I couldn't, because I was doing 3 cards, normally if I was just benchmarking something, there's a scene you can load into with loads of things going in, but it's just easier to do exactly the same scene, sadly. I mean, some people think this benchmark's not much use because it doesn't really cover like a lot of stuff on the screen at the same time. There's a fair amount of people though going on with this. It's quite a lot. So yeah, that door normally has a weird reflection on it. And we're out. So this is the B580 and you can see this is doing okay. We've not switched on anything funky. However, I warn you this, if you switch on frame gen on this, it'll literally switches the machine off. It switches my machine off. It's like I might as well just not do power off. If I switch the frame gen button when I'm doing this, I couldn't work out what's going on. You switch frame gen in this, and it's gone. Now you can see a few jumps in the frame graph there. Every now and again, you get a judder, but it does it. It's doing it, and it's doing it quite well. But yeah, no, frame gen and Omarchy and Intel does not go together. So here you go. So 65 frames per second at 1440p, and frame gen no, super resolution 2, sharpness 0.5, no ray tracing. And you saw the settings. So max min 58, 77 now. AMD 82, sort of better. It's, it's a more powerful card, isn't it? Really, it's 12 gig of RAM. It's a 16 gig of RAM. And AMD is much more integrated into like the Linux universe, isn't it? And then you've got the NVIDIA, which is slightly slower. So, really close though. I mean, they're so close, you can split hairs here, can't you? And so what was next? What did I do next? That was, oh no, okay, this is like I did a runaround. So this is Borderlands 4. Now I'm just going through the settings here to show you what I put. So it's high, its own upscaling method on, and I've all set them all at like performance, and it's all high all the way down. So it's reasonable. Now in the game, and this is NVIDIA. Now NVIDIA is smooth as silk playing this. There's no issues whatsoever. Just perfect. Does its thing. That's a great grenade. Okay, jump to AMD, and everything looks fine. You get similar frame rates, but it does this. I think I'll catch it in a second. There's huge glitches there, and it does it a lot. You get these jumps, and it does that. Intel, similar. You get these jumps. They're all sort of, there you go, that's bad. And it just sort of jumps and locks. Intel's worse than AMD. Yeah, it's sort of, anyway. Okay, back to me. So there you go. There's the games test stuff. And it's interesting to watch. It's the Intel's obviously a really powerful card, and it's I wouldn't write it off. I think with a bit more driver development over time, and they need it, and it's more incorporated into games development, those Intel cards will be the cards to beat NVIDIA. If they can get the price right, they will edge into the AMD place. NVIDIA, they are getting there with it. So that's much better than I expected. And the fact that I could run most of the games I tried on the Intel, once I've done the install with the installer, which is right at the beginning of this video, I could get things working. And yeah, there was a few glitches with it when it went on, but you persevere and it loads up. I think Borderlands took 2 times to load, but I think a lot of it's to do with the fact I'm moving a games drive between different cards, and it's putting down different cache shaders. Anyway, there you go. So that's all of it. So I'll put the link to the games loader thing at the bottom. There'll be a GitHub link and also a Dropbox link, because not everybody's au fait with how GitHub works. I'm not. It's the first time I've ever put anything up Git. So basically, there's a link that you can download it, just run the script, do the install on your Omarchy thing. It'll pick Intel, whatever, and just work. So even if you're on the Intel card. But I think that was a worthwhile exercise. I think that too much is put on, the frames per second and all this. They're all playable experiences with those cards. If you're willing to just knock down a bit of resolution, switch off ray tracing, save some hundreds of pounds. And let's not forget, next year there'll be a load of new cards. So you really want to get in the right level, the affordable level. I always laugh when people drop a dime on 5090s, things like that. I mean, it was in post-production. We'd spend for a machine for 3 years. You'd literally, you'd buy it and it needed to pay itself off within 6 months, at minimum. So you wouldn't really drop 5090s. You'd just get something beneath it, because they always charge the premium. The processing power's there. Do you really need that extra minute? Do you know what I mean? It's a balancing act commercially. So, I mean, I've got a 5060 and I can bang out all the work I need just as quick as I need to deliver it. There's no extra thing. And I'm doing some quite big effects and stuff like that in Resolve. But no, it's for gaming, there's a point of diminishing returns with video cards, I believe, where you just paying too much for them. and I really like what Intel's doing. That's why I actually bought one, decided to incorporate into all these tests, because it's worth supporting people like that are actually doing that kind of stuff, because we can get cars that are reasonable, 200, 250 quid for gaming. Result, that's great. So yeah, anyway, so yeah, scripts in the front, download it, comments, it's on Git, do what you want. I hope if you're using Omarchy, it's made your life a little bit easier. I know there's some changes coming in version 3.2.1 to, I've just looked at Git, where they're going to allow you to change the Vulkan backend, which I think is some of the problem with installing games on Omarchy. But you can use my script as well, and it gives you all the benefits of GameScope and everything like that. Anyway, I hope that hugely long video has been useful to you. And as ever, thanks for watching.